Anything interesting coming in on the Facebook wall, you two, because you're both peering at it? Anything that's tickled your fancy,
well,
Marshall?
people are talking about extending him, so let me chime in a little bit with my thoughts there. I think having some extension talks with Cody Fajardo is a good thing, but I don't see it as critical because let's fast forward. Let's pretend the rest of this year, Cody Fajardo continues to progress, continues to impress. The Riders don't win the Grey Cup, but the Riders somehow find a way to get into the playoffs. Cody Fajardo leads them and solidifies his role as the leader of this football team. Let's just pretend that's happened. So where does that leave him at the end of the year? Does that mean that somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and want to sign him to a contract for $700,000 or $800,000 like they did to Edmonton, did to Trevor Harris, or BC did to Mike Riley, or Calgary did to Bo Levi Harris? No, there's no way in the world somebody's going to come along and offer him $600,000 or $800,000 a year. But somebody's going to be willing to offer him what somebody like Zach Collaros was making, $300,000 a year, or something like that. I don't have a problem if I'm the general manager talking in the $300,000 range. He's only played, 6 games as a starter or something like that, but they're very impressive games. But the other thing, and I don't know that the average fan understands this. Let's pretend for a minute that you're the general manager and you just signed Marshall Hamilton to a $1 million a year contract for 5 years. Does that mean you're going to pay me $5 million? No, not at all. Only if I play all 5 seasons and all the games during those seasons. If partway through season 1, I do something stupid and you decide, I'm out of here, I don't want this anymore, you don't have to pay me anymore. Maybe you've paid me $500,000 for that first half of season, but you don't have to pay me for the rest of that year, and you don't have to pay me for the next 4. That contract goes away. So it's not a given when you sign somebody to a contract that you're paying that entire contract until it's over. Mm-hmm. You pay 1/18 of whatever the contract amount is after each game.
We don't get in there and cover the team in the news conferences after, but Amanda does for Marshall and my television show, and Amanda's as well in the huddle. So why don't you tell me what Cody's like? It's not like he's not the guy that you stand around his locker like the other guys. He comes in and does his news conference in front of everybody just like the head coach. Tell us something about Cody Fajardo that we don't see on the field. What's he like off the field?
He's a wonderful person. I think when he walks up to us initially, I get this huge smile on my face because I know that he's going to be a great interview. Like, he comes up smiling, asks us, how are you guys doing today? What's going on today? And I think that's very unique about his character, because we had Zach Collaros and Coach said he was a good leader. He was kind of quiet, a little bit more reserved. Cody comes up and he brings this uniqueness to his personality that I think we haven't seen in Zach, which so I really like about Cody. And he's just a big leader. I think that he's a leader as well. And I think it's somebody Rider Nation needs and can get behind. And he's a character and he's a face, and we need more of that on the team. And I think the players really get behind him and believe it in him. I think he's bringing something wonderful to the team, and I just like being around him. And he brings smiles to practice, and he brings that energy that I think that the team really loves, and it's bringing some positiveness to it. So,
well, Mike writes in, Mike Dacey on the Facebook string. He says Cody's value will probably be in the $350,000 range, I'm thinking, for next season, and I think that's fair. I would think the Riders don't want to allow Cody Fajardo to get to free agency. I don't know what teams are looking for quarterbacks right now. So, and that's, by the way, a long ways away. But the fans are falling in love with Cody Fajardo. I'm falling in love with Cody Fajardo. But this harkens me back to my years covering the team, and not just the Riders, but the Pats too. But there's been times at those camps in Florida or a training camp in Saskatoon where some guy has one great day and I'm blowing him up like he's Warren Moon or Joe Montana. And the guys, the management people are like, would you stop? You're blowing these guys up. You're getting their heads are big. We got to deal with their egos, and we're going to have to pay them and sign them. And I'm like, I'm doing what I do. You do what you do. Now, if I was in the management shoes, I'd probably be pissed off too. But that's kind of what I do, is build these guys up. I think that's why the players like coming on this show so much, because I always built them up and for the most part, they all were the next best thing since coming. But Marshall, I don't think it's the media. Fans aren't stupid. They can see the worth of Cody Fajardo? Is it ahead of schedule? Who knows? Again, he's passed every test. But Clark said this in our pre-show meeting. This is why Kirk Cousins makes $30 million a year. He got signed by the Vikings on hype.
Yep.
And where's he been since?
Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of hype that's going around Cody Fajardo. I think the fans are generating some of it. I think the media is generating some of it. And I think as you heard me say just a couple of minutes ago, I think we should be starting to talk to them about extensions. But, and my family hates this about me because I've always got two ways of looking at everything. I say on one hand and on the other hand. Well, let's look at the other hand for a minute. And before I say what I'm going to say, keep in mind that I'm a big Cody Fajardo fan, and I think he's got tremendous potential. But we've won 4 games with him as our quarterback, 2 of them against the BC Lions, one of them against Toronto Argonauts, and one of them against a severely crippled Hamilton Tiger Cat team, who I think is a very good football team. But those are the 4 wins. They have not beat Calgary. They have not beat Edmonton. They have not beat Winnipeg. And those are the tough teams that they're going to have to beat in the West in order to make the playoffs in the West. Earlier this season, I was talking about the crossovers probably a given for this year. Well, it's not looking as much like a given today as it did 6 or 7 weeks ago. So if the Rough Riders under Cody Fajardo are going to make the playoffs in the West, you got to start beating Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. And we haven't been successful. I've only played Calgary once, but we haven't been successful yet. So Cody Fajardo, great start. Love your attitude. Really likable guy. Doing all the right things. Off to a fantastic start. But the proof's in the pudding. There's still a lot of football left to play against some really good football teams.
The tough games are coming up for sure.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.